Rolling Stones, by the way, pre-sale yesterday. The Joe Show running around like crazy, trying to host the show, the 10 o'clock show here, and get tickets at the same time. She went on, and I heard this from a lot of people, 2,000 people waiting in the virtual line before her. Like they tell you, like, oh, you're in the line, and there's 2,000 people ahead of you. Like, it could be a little demoralizing, but when you're looking at a stadium with 20,000 seats, it's not that bad, all things considered. I'm not sure how many tickets were on sale yesterday for the pre-show, for the pre-sale, but I will say that the Stones did announce a couple of extra shows, which is always a good sign, because if they hit their numbers, they figure these things out with equations. Like, if we hit this much numbers on the pre-sale, then we know we have this much demand. We could add some extra shows. That's exactly what they did. One here for New York at Giant Stadium. They added a second show there. And in Chicago, they added a second show as well. So the 17th to tack on to the 13th show that's there in June. And then to tack on to the June 21st show at Soldier Field in Chicago, they added a June 25th show. To me, it's really interesting how much space there is between all these shows. Which is funny because we just talked about Joe Perry collapsing for a second time and how, he's getting up there in age and the lifestyle and all these things. Like, slow it down, space yourself out, right? Steven Tyler's like, hey, I can't do more than 2 shows in a week. Joe Perry's doing like 9 shows in a row and then passes out. Like, it's interesting to see the Stones take their approach. They're doing April 20th, then April 24th, then April 28th. Then they're doing May 7th. Then May 11th, then May 18th. So they're not rushing themselves whatsoever. There's no back-to-back dates on this run. They're taking their time. I think this is going to be a really good one. No Filter Tour. Tickets officially go on sale to the public Friday morning at 10 a.m. Of course, if you're in some of these pre-sales with credit cards or the fan club and all that stuff, you get early access like the Joe Show got. But the reason for this is some of the comments that Keith Richards made in a Rolling Stone piece. You can read this at WEHM.com. We sort of plucked out the important parts and put it together in one story. It's an update on the album, the tour, and everything else. So let's tackle the album first. We had covered that a bunch on the morning show with Anthony before. Mick in studio or in a home studio working on some material. We heard some little tidbits from Keith in the past. We have an update. Talking about the next album, Keith reveals that they are in the early stages still, that he and Mick, quote, got together for a few days a month or so ago in studio just playing around. Added that the duo may also meet up for another session in December, but he said, quote, I'm not crossing my fingers on that. We learned that Don Was is going to be the producer of this new project. He says, and I quote here, we knocked out a few songs together with Don Was. We're just working things through. We had a great time, got some nice stuff out of it. Richards goes on to explain that he has no idea when the band might finish the album and guesses that maybe this time next year would be a reasonable projection. That's a little disappointing to me because you're talking about November of next year. I thought and was hopeful, just taking a look and seeing how this tour was opening itself up, that we'd have an album out by the time the tour runs around. Stuff like that usually helps sales. I mean, the thing today is put an album on sale same time as your tickets, help your album sales with your ticket sales. But that wasn't going to happen in this particular case. But then I thought maybe at least you can get that record out by the time you go around to these shows. You're playing in audiences now 40, 50,000 a night, 60,000 a night. They might all grab it, they might all grab an album on the way out or download it or stream it or whatever. It's all going to help your numbers. Live is always going to help your sales numbers or your streaming numbers for your records. So you'd think that they'd want to have that out by then, but it doesn't look like it. Maybe a single, maybe they'll have a single out by then. Maybe there'll be a song that is completely done. Who knows? If we've learned anything, the way things are going now is really completely changing. Like, just look at Hozier. Put out a 4-song EP a couple of weeks ago, a month ago or so, whatever. And then he just put out a single the other day that wasn't attached to that EP at all. Or another album or whatever. He's just putting stuff out. And I think a lot of people are going that way. Maybe we'll get that from the Stones. So we'll see. But I'm excited because the last couple of things that they've put out that they've recorded, whether it was the cover Sting or the original from, it's been a while now, they've had some great, they've sounded amazing. Amazing. So I'm really hopeful for the new Stones record and really looking forward to that. Keith also commented on the array of farewell tours that we have and announcements and such. And he said that the Stones are not going to be a part of that, but he says that this could be the last tour. He was asked if he would be joining the many people who are announcing farewell tours recently and said, quote, "I just haven't gotten around to thinking in that head yet. I don't know if you never know. Maybe this will be the last one. I don't know." So kind of ambiguous and leaving it in the air, but like it kind of almost feels that way, doesn't it? Like he's 74, right? I mean, you know, you see all the spacings of this tour. It's selling well enough. We could get another one next year if they're into it, you know. Could get arenas come wintertime. If the album's going to come out in November, we could see a wintertime, winter, early spring tour go through arenas. Who knows? But you do kind of have to have that feeling that, you know, this could be the last. This could be the last one. This could be the last time. It could be. You just you never know. It's not, you know, it's not the kind of thing where like this is it, or we probably think this is it. But you got to think, 74, 75. They still look great. They still sound great. All that stuff. But, you know, what I'm saying is if you got like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old and you're like, this one's not right. Maybe the next tour. Like there might not be that next tour. So take your kids to go see the Stones at least once. At least once. So there's your update on what's exactly going on with the Stones. Could be the last tour. Would make sense. Could be one next year. New album not going to be out, not at least until this time next year as they work on it. I wonder, like, that's a lot of time. Like, you'd think they would be, I would think that they would be so excited to work on the new material that they'd be getting together more often and doing stuff more. Certainly a lot of time between now and April 20th when they got to go out and do the first show. But I guess things just come up. They also said, Keith also said in the interview that there is quite a long rehearsal period for this particular tour, that they're going to get together actually pretty soon and have a real long rehearsal period before April 20th. So who knows what that means. I'm just excited for this production too. Like, what's that going to look like? If they're getting together for this long to put this rehearsal together, like, do you think they need to rehearse Satisfaction again? No. Do they need to rehearse Satisfaction with whatever it is that they're planning visually, for a show? Yeah, that makes sense to me. That also might make sense why there's such a big gap. I don't want to pin it all on just their age, but maybe there is a big gap because, running this thing from city to city is going to take some time to set it all up and put it all together. So I can get excited about what that visual is going to be like for this upcoming show. No Filter tour with a couple new dates now, especially for us New Yorkers over here. June 17th added to the June 13th date over at MetLife Stadium. I still call it Giant Stadium. In East Rutherford, New Jersey, and an extra date at Soldier Field in Chicago. You're all caught up on what's going on with the Rolling Stones right now.